shall do all the miracles that you said your God would do and never did.
Now, is the pain gone?
You don't believe that Bible? King James put lies in there.
The weather's just perfectly delightful today.
How tall is you moving? Slow down!
But you never get cold down here. It's so delightful to rest in the smog-free air.
What happens when a religious leader who becomes hooked on drugs and control gathers his followers up to a private jungle? Nothing good. This is the story of Jim Jones and the tragedy of Jonestown. It all starts with Jim Jones. He was born in Crete, Indiana on May 13, 1931. Crete was a tiny, isolated town with barely any population. Raised in a struggling family during the Great Depression, young Jim Jones was exposed to the hardships of poverty.
I acted out against the conformities in the community. First way, because I was never accepted, or I didn't feel accepted.
His mother, Lynetta, was a Pentecostal Christian, and it was through her that Jim was introduced to the world of religion at a very early age. He accompanied her to church services, experiencing the emotional and charismatic preaching that would later influence his own style. As Jim Jones entered his teenage years, he continued to explore various religious beliefs and denominations. He attended Methodist and even Baptist churches. But it was a Pentecostal revival meeting that would change his life forever. During that revival meeting, Jones claimed to have received a vision in which he saw a multiracial congregation. This vision ignited a calling with him to become a preacher and advocate for social justice. Heading into his 20s, Jim Jones briefly attended Indiana University. There he met his future wife, Marceline. They began dating, and she played an important role in his life and work as a loyal supporter. He, though, soon dropped out to pursue a career in ministry. He started his own ministry in the Methodist Church, but eventually founded his own church, initially known as the Community Unity Church, and later renamed the People's Temple Christian Church. Jim and Marceline eventually had one biological child together after opening the church, a son named Stephen, who was born in 1959, but they also began to adopt several children from diverse racial backgrounds, supposedly reflecting the People's Temple's commitment to racial integration and inclusivity, calling it his rainbow family. But it was just another front for who he was truly. Always putting on a show, always putting on a front.
That was the only weapon with which I got to fight. I got a hell of a lot of weapons to fight. I got my claws, I got compasses, I got guns, I got dynamite. I got a hell of a lot to fight. I'll fight, I will fight, I will fight.
Now that he had his own church and was preaching that message of inclusivity and racial integration, he started to begin attracting a diverse congregation at a time when racial segregation was still rampant in parts of the United States. But the People's Temple was not just a place of worship to him, but a hub for social activism. Jones and his followers passionately advocated for civil rights, affordable housing, and other progressive causes. However, Jones' ideology began to shift, incorporating elements of extreme socialism and control.
The only thing that brings perfect justice, freedom, and equality, perfect love in all of its beauty and holiness is socialism.
He then began claiming healings and miracles, telling people he was taking sickness from their body, but actually using pieces of raw meat he had already had in his hand to represent pulling the physical sickness out of someone. He continued to lie and fake healings, as well as continuously upping the tithe and asking for donations. And while all this was taking place, all this good, in Jones's head something was lingering far more sinister than they could have imagined. Jim Jones and the People's Temple were eventually facing legal troubles. There were allegations of abuse, concerns about finances, custody battles, odd political connections, lawsuits, pressure from concerned relatives, and Jones' increasing paranoia. It was during this time Jones began sleeping with other women and men, claiming his wife could no longer satisfy him. Turns out he had hidden his sexual desires and being bisexual his whole life. Things started to ravel out of control. All these factors combined became an issue for the organization in the United States. In the late 1970s, Jones decided to relocate the People's Temple to a remote settlement in Guyana.
These are honey and coffee. Here's a Milo, an extremely good drink that is unique to Guyana.
Today, all the children of Jonestown are having a fun day parade and showing their happiness and how well they love it here in Jonestown.
With the promise of a utopian community free from persecution, Jonestown offered the isolation and control Jones desired. Members were cut off from their families, and strict discipline and surveillance were imposed immediately. His leadership became increasingly controlling. Backtalking and questioning were met with punishment, including public humiliation and beatings. While the early years of the People Temple were marked by a focus on social justice, the church's activities began to take a dark turn in Jonestown. Right away, they didn't have the funds to go for long, but that didn't matter to Jones. He had a plan where they wouldn't need the land anymore soon. Members were instilled with fear and paranoia, convincing them that the outside world was dangerous.
They brought this upon us, and they'll pay for that.
He declared that only through loyalty to him could they find safety. Members were instilled with fear and paranoia, convincing them that the outside world was dangerous. He declared that only through loyalty to him could they find safety. And on top of all of that, it was there that his drug use escalated. He became erratic and unpredictable, always keeping glasses on 24/7 inside or out, trying to hide it. The situation in Jonestown reached a breaking point in November 1978, when United States Congressman Leo Ryan visited with a group of journalists, including NBC's Don Harris. Along with them were concerned relatives, and they were ready to investigate allegations of abuse and mistreatment that they had heard back home. They came, checked things out. The congressman even gave a speech, and things seemed weird, but nothing too alarming yet. That it was until a note was passed by a member to him begging for help to escape.
No. He's the one that I'm just talking about. Yeah, this is the man that wants to leave his son here.
Doesn't it concern you, though, that this man, for whatever reason, one of the people in your group...
People play games, friend. They lie. What can I do about liars? Are you people going to leave us? I just beg you, please leave us.
Jones was confronted with the letter, and it was in that moment Jones had already decided to end their lives for doing this on camera. Because in his mind, nobody will ever embarrass him. As Congressman Ryan and Don Harris, along with some of the families who wanted to leave, were heading away on the airstrip, a group of armed temple members attacked them, resulting in many injuries and the tragic deaths of Congressman Ryan, Don Harris, and many others. Panic and hysteria began to happen in Jonestown.
You think they're going to allow us to get by with this? Must be insane. They'll torture some of our children here. They'll torture our people. They'll torture our seniors. We cannot have this. If we can't live in peace, then let's die in peace.
And in response to the airstrip attack and fearing further consequences, Jones ordered the unthinkable, a mass send-off.
How very much I've loved you. How very much I've tried my best to give you the good life. There's no way to detach ourselves from what's happened today. And we are sitting here waiting on a powder keg. It was said by the greatest of prophets from time immemorial, no man takes my life from me, I lay my life down.
He instructed his followers to consume a cyanide-laced drink that most think was Kool-Aid, even giving meaning to the term drink the Kool-Aid. But it was actually Flavor Aid, a cheap knockoff, convincing them that it was the only path to a peaceful transition to another world. The events of November 18, 1978 would result in the deaths of over 900 people.
In Guyana, a California congressman, 3 American journalists, and a woman were gunned down, murdered by a gang of fanatics.
He said that he escaped ritual by hiding under a nursing station at the Jungle Commune,
including children, making Jonestown Massacre one of the darkest and most horrific incidents in modern history. All have died from cyanide but Jones. Seeing all the people laying and suffering to their end, and how painful it was.
It's nothing to death, it's just stepping over in another plane. Don't be this way.
Mother, please, don't do this, don't do this.
He had someone shoot him to end his life. It was his nurse that he kept around at all times. In the aftermath of Jonestown, Guyanese and United States authorities arrived to provide assistance and investigate the incident. They encountered the horrifying scene of hundreds of bodies scattered around the pavilion. The remote location of Jonestown had contributed to the delay in the authorities' response, allowing the tragedy to unfold without immediate intervention.
1,000 people say we don't like the way the world is. Take our life from us. We laid it down, we got tired.
The world was left in shock as the true scale of it became apparent. The loss of over 900 lives in a single event was an unthinkable tragedy. He left behind millions in accounts and properties that he had taken from people over the years in donations and taking advantage of them. They were in his will to be given away to charities, but his money was taken and given to the families of victims in wrongful death suits. Jonestown had a profound impact on the field of cult studies and the study of religious extremism. Scholars and researchers began to investigate the dynamics of cults, the psychological mechanisms of manipulation, and the warning signs of dangerous groups. The legacy of Jonestown is a sad one, marked by tragedy and loss. The events show the consequences of extremism, heavy drug use, unchecked power, manipulation, and the dangers of cults. Looking back on Jonestown, we can see that too much of anything is just not good. And unfortunately, there are people out there who are always looking for their home, looking for their group. And these people in desperation are always the ones that seem to be taken advantage of. These people are victims, and they were taken advantage of, and their desperation and their lack of maybe knowledge per se led them to a path that they never saw coming. It is my belief that most of them in this group did join and start with good intentions and looking for a home and a family, wanting to give good and wanting to see everyone have food, everyone have homes. But things got carried away, and people tried to take control. Unfortunately, even today, there are still cults, still groups, and still people being taken advantage of. Hopefully, we don't have many more of these stories, but from the stories that we do have, let's hope that it's a warning to everyone.